Okay, welcome back. In this video, we are going to make a custom user model for our project. Let me first close all these tabs. Alright, as I said before, Django comes with the default user model, right? Which will contain the field names such as first name, last name, email address, and username and all that basic stuff, right? And also Django usually uses the username as a login field. But this default user model is usually for the basic applications, but in our case we need more flexibility over the user model. Like we want to set up a role to identify whether the user is the typical customer or he is a vendor. Maybe we can say a restaurant owner, right? And also we don't want the username as a login field. Instead, we'll use email address as a login field. So to do all these kinds of custom operations, we definitely need to edit the way the default user model works, right? In short, we are going to rewrite the Django user model so that it fits in with our custom requirements. So that's what we are going to do in this section. So to continue with this implementation, we need two classes. One is of course the user class and another one is the user manager class. Okay, now you might ask me, what is user manager class? Well, as the name says, user manager class actually manages the users. It extends the BaseUserManager class from the Django auth models because by default Django uses two classes for managing the users. One is the user model and the other one is the user manager. It also has two methods. One is for creating the regular users and the other one is for creating the super users, and these methods are called when you run create super user command, right? Don't get confused, you will understand this very well once we start coding. But in short, what we are going to do, we are going to extend these managers, or I can say we are going to inherit these user managers and edit the way how the default user models works. Okay, let's start coding now. First of all, we don't have any apps created now. All right, so to create a custom user model, or to begin with the project, we need to create some apps, right? So for us now, we'll create one app called accounts. All right, so I have stopped the server. I'll say python manage.py start app, and I will say accounts. All right, hit enter. All right, as you can see, we have created an app called accounts, and as soon as we create an app, we should directly go into the settings.py, and inside the installed apps we'll say accounts. All right, and the next thing is to create a model. Let's go to this models.py. So we are creating custom user models. So for that we need to import some models from Django contrib auth models. So let's first import them. Let's say from Django.contrib.auth.models import AbstractBaseUser, BaseUserManager. All right, so we need to import these models. All right, don't worry, I'll explain these two models, but let's start creating the first class now. Let's say class is user manager. This user manager will extend the feature of BaseUserManager. All right, let's pass. Okay, we also need to create a class that is user. All right, and this user will extend AbstractBaseUser. All right, okay, I'll say pass. So now we have two models, right? So this user manager will have two methods. All right, this class will never contain any fields. Okay, we should keep that in mind. User manager will not contain any fields, so it will only contain the methods. Okay, so in that first method is to create a user. Okay, create a regular user, and the second method is to create a super user. All right, and this user model will contain the typical field names: first name, last name, username, phone number, email address, all that stuff. All right, so let's first start making the first method. Let's say define create underscore user. All right, so this create user method will take a parameter self. Of course it will take self because this is the method inside a class, right? So whenever you write a function or method inside a class, any class, all right, you first need to pass the self, and after that the other parameters. All right, so we'll say first name comma last underscore name comma user name and email, and finally we'll say password. We'll set it by default we'll set it to none. All right, so now this is a function, so let's put a colon. Let's we need to check when creating a user, what if we don't provide the email address. So let's say if not email, we'll simply raise a value error. All right, value error, that is you can raise any kind of error because you have full control of this user manager. Okay, I'll come back to that because when I said full control, so this is about the base user manager. All right, so once I'm done with this email, I'll explain you about base user manager and abstract user manager. But for now, let's say user must have an email address. Also we will check if we don't provide the username. So these are the basic checks any custom user models can have, so you don't have to remember that thing. So you can simply raise these two errors whenever you create custom user model in any of your projects. All right, I'll say value error again. User must have an email, that is user name. All right, now let's start creating a user. Now user is equal to self dot model. So inside this self dot model, we'll start passing the values, that is email is equal to self dot normalize email, that is email. So what is this normalize email? So normalize email means it will take the email address from you. For example, if you give any uppercase email address, it will take your uppercase email address and convert it into the lowercase, and it just means that your email address will be normalized. Okay, so it will be in the form of the lowercase. All right, so that's what it means. And we'll say username is equal to username comma first name is equal to first name comma last underscore name, that is equal to last name. Okay, after that we will say user dot set password, set underscore password. We'll pass the password. So set password is a method. It will take the password and encode the password and store it in the database. Okay, so that's why whenever we store the password, we use a set underscore password. So because we cannot store the password in a plain text, right? So that's why we use set underscore password. And user dot save using equals self dot underscore db. Okay, and now return user. Okay, one thing you should notice here, while we are saving the user, we are using equal to self._db. So what does it mean? Well, Django by default uses using parameter to define which database the manager should use for the operations. All right, so this is mostly used in case if you have multiple databases, by which you define which database you need to use for this operation. But in our case, we don't have to worry about this one, because we only have one database, right? So self._db will take the default database that we have configured in the settings.file. So in short, it is going to take this database, okay, this database, and store this user. Okay, now we have created a method for creating a regular user, but we also need to create a method for creating a super user, right? So for that, we also need one more function, that is a create_super user. It will be same as the create_user, but with a little bit of changes. We'll say def create create_super user. All right, so while creating a super user, we first need to say self. We'll take this one as it is and pass it here: first name, last name, username, email, and a password. Okay, now we need to put the colon here. After that, we'll say user, that is equal to self dot, now we should use create user method, because we have already created a method to create a user, right? So while creating a super user, we first need to create a user, then we assign him as a super user, right? So we already have the create user method. So that's why what we need to do, we need to pass the values, pass the values into this function, this create user function. So that will create a normal user. So once we have created the normal user, then we make him as a super admin. Okay, so let's do that. So again, we'll say email is equal to self dot normalize email. Okay, and username is equal to username, comma, password is equal to password, comma, first name is equal to first name, last underscore name, that is equal to last underscore name. Okay, so we have created a user now. So let's assign this, let's make him a super user. All right, user dot in short, when we make him as a super user, that means we will set the is admin, is active, is staff, is users, is super admin flag to true. Okay, so I'll say is admin, that is equal to true, and user dot is underscore active, that is also true. User dot is underscore staff is equal to true. User dot is underscore super user, super admin. Okay, super admin is equal to true. Okay, and again, when saving the user, we need to tell the Django that which database we need to use for storing this user. So again, we'll say user.save using is equal to self dot underscore db, because we only have one database, so go ahead and store in that database. Okay, that is Postgres. All right, so we'll again return user. Okay, so this part is done now. Okay, now you notice we have used BaseUserManager here. So what is this BaseUserManager? Okay, so that's what I wanted to explain you guys. So this BaseUserManager will allow you to edit the way how the users and super users are created. Okay, as you can see, we have created two methods, that is one for creating a user and another for creating a super user, right? So, and it also gives a method to normalize the email addresses. Okay, and you might have noticed while creating a super users by running python manage.py create super user command, so it asks you to enter a username, email address and password, right? But what we have done now, the moment we run create super user command, it will also ask you to enter a first name and last name, right? Because we are taking the first name and last name parameters while creating a super user, right? If you want to take the phone number while creating a super user, that can also be done using this method. Okay, so that's the kind of flexibility provided by BaseUserManager. All right, and another thing you can see, we have also imported the abstract base user, right? So this abstract base user, we are going to extend it in the user class. So by extending this abstract base user, or I can say by inheriting this abstract base user, we are taking the full control of editing the whole custom user model, including the authentication functionality of Django. Okay, and there is another thing called abstract user. You can also use this, but if you use this, Django will not give you the full control over its user model. It will only allow you to add extra fields, that's all. Okay, so instead of using this abstract base user, you can also use abstract user. Okay, abstract user, you can also use this one, but if you use this, you can only add the extra fields to your model. Okay, not more than that. Let me undo this. But for us, we also want to tell Django that we want to use email address as a login field, right? So in that case, we need kind of full control over the model. So that's why we use the abstract base user. Okay, so when you use this, you have the full control over Django's user model. Okay, you can do whatever you want to do with this model. All right, but for this project, we'll make a simple user model including the role. Okay, so we have the class user now, and we have extended the abstract base user. So let's remove this pass now. We'll start adding the fields. First name, that is equal to models dot char field. Max length is equal to 50. The same way we'll say last name is equal to again the char field, that's equal to 50, and we'll say username is equal to models dot char field. Max length is equal to maybe 50, and also the username will be unique, right? Unique equal to true. All right, and the email is equal to models dot email field. Max length is equal to, let's say, 100, again unique equal to true. All right, and the phone underscore number, that is equal to models dot char field. Max length is equal to 12, blank equals true. Okay, this phone number we can set it as a optional. And there's one more thing we can say is a role. So in this project we can have three types of roles. Okay, one is the restaurant role, another one is the customer role, and another one is the admin role. Okay, admin means the super admin. Okay, but we don't want to do anything with the super admin because he already have the default admin panel, so we don't want to override it. Okay, but we will handle other two roles, that is restaurant role and the customer roles. All right, so we'll make a choice. Okay, before that we will say restaurant is equal to 1. We'll set a value. Customer is equal to 2. Okay, so we'll say role underscore choice, that is equal to restaurant restaurant, comma, say the option value, that is restaurant. Okay, the same way, customer, comma, customer. Alright, so now we have the choices. We will say role is equal to models dot. So in this models dot, we will say actually it is going to store 1 or 2, right? So you can say positive small integer field. Okay, we have positive big integer field, positive integer field, positive small integer field, we can say. All right, and choices is equal to this role choice, and this role can be blank or cannot be blank. Let me think about that. Let's set blank is equal to true and null equal to true. We don't want any errors to rise because of this role, so we'll set it blank equal to true and null equal to true. All right, and while creating a custom user model, we need to take care of the Django's required field. Okay, so the required fields are actually, I'll say, required fields. Okay, so the first required field is joined, date joined, that is equal to models dot date time field auto underscore now underscore add is equal to true, and last login, you don't have to remember this, okay, because this is the required field, and in the Django documentation you will find it. Okay, models dot date time field, again auto now add equals true, and created underscore date, that is equal to models dot date time field, again that is auto now add is equal to true. Okay, so this is true, and again modified underscore date is equal to models dot date time field auto now equal to true, and last few fields are is admin, is staff, is active, super admin. Okay, let's say is admin is equal to models dot, this is the boolean field by default. Admin is false. Okay, this will paste it 4 times, three more times. It is staff, again for is staff also it is false, and the third one is active. What we'll do is we'll set this is active status to false, and the last one is super admin, of course. Super admin is by default false. And next comes is the authentication part of the Django custom user. That is because AbstractBaseUser gives us the ability to set the username field, because by default Django uses username as a login field, but we want to override that, so that's why we will say user name underscore field is equal to email. Okay, so this email will go here. All right, and required fields also we have to set required underscore fields is equal to, it will be a list, So the required field is username. Of course, the email is also a required field, but we don't need to put that email inside this required field list because username field itself is a required field. So that's why we don't need to put that here. Okay. Username comma first name will also be a required field, first underscore name and last underscore name, and we will set a string representation of this model, that is str. It will take a self parameter. We'll say return self dot email. Okay, also we need to set two more methods, that is define has permission, has underscore perm. It will take self comma, it will take permission comma, it will take object is which is set to none. Okay, and it will return a self dot is admin. And also we have another function, that is has underscore module underscore perms. It will take a self and app underscore label. Okay, so this will return true. So what it means is these has perm and has module perms will return true if the user is an active super user or is an admin, and for inactive users it will be always it will always return false. That means by default admin and super admin can only have the access to this model. Okay, you don't have to go very deep into this permission for now, because in the future videos I'm going to explain you guys about the permissions and groups, so you will understand this better. For now, let's make the formality of providing these methods to our Django custom user model. So we are almost done with creating a custom user model. We still have two more simple steps. One is we need to tell this user class that which user manages to use on this model. All right, so that is here we'll write objects is equal to user manager. Okay, so this manager is nothing but this class. Okay, and another one is in the settings file we need to tell Django that we are not using your default user model anymore. Instead we are using our custom user model that we created right now. So how to do that? Maybe just below this databases we will say auth underscore user underscore model, that is equal to accounts, because our user class, okay, user class is inside the accounts app, right? So that's why we need to say accounts dot user. So that's it for creating a custom user model. In the next video we'll actually test this custom user model, okay, by by running the migration commands. All right, thank you.